My name is David, and today I've been exploring what it would mean for a large language model to be a psychologist. And this is really for its potential strengths and weaknesses, I guess. So I've got this system here, which is built backend in Python and Flask. And essentially, to describe what's happening here, we've got the psychologist model, and this we can choose the models here, which is running from Olama. You can have a system prompt here, which we'll obviously need to edit as we go, and then we can choose here from Apple's built-in voices. I've set it to Serena, which is a premium voice. And then here on this right side, we've got the memory configuration. So essentially, after every iteration, it takes the conversation that's had so far, both that I've sent and that it has outputted, and then it can summarize or do whatever we want there, and then actually appends it on to the system prompt of the psychologist. And that way we have a working memory going of the conversation so far. So put the message in here, comes out there, you can see I've been testing, but then also I can clear memory if I need to, although nothing's been saved to memory so far. And then I can export a transcript if I want. All right, so since we want it to be a psychologist, we are going to say, you are a psychologist. Answer in 100 words or less. Responses only. And you know what? We'll start with it just like that and can build on it as we go. Start it with like that and build on it as we go. Then over here, as far as the memory system prompts go, I do have this prompt here, which I've found actually works quite well. So essentially it says extract all explicit new information without interpretation of entities, people, places, objects, concepts, facts. Have them as exact statements, preserving the original wording. Also extract any relationships, connections between entities, any temporal or quantitative data, times, dates, and numbers, causal relations, if then connections, preserve outliers, unique information. Also take emotions, feelings, your own or assumptions of others, and don't note that this is memory, only return the information. I found that it would often say, okay, here's my memory, and then it would just degrade in quality. All right, so let's start very simply. Hello.
Welcome to our session. How have you been feeling lately? Is there something specific on your mind that you'd like to talk about?
Yes, I've been feeling worried lately.
It takes courage to acknowledge and share your concerns. Can you tell me more about what's been on your mind? Is there something specific that's causing you worry? Or is it a general feeling that's been building up? We can explore this together at your pace.
All right, so I'll pause there already because that down here as well, we can see the current memory, what it has. Got user-initiated conversation. They asked if they can discuss a topic, and then the assistant offered an opportunity to share feelings. And actually, where do we begin? Okay, so I've got it set to Llama 3.23b, which is obviously a very small model, and also the memory model set to a very small model. I'm going to up to 4b, a Gemma 3 4b memory model. And I'm also going to up this to Gemma 3 4b as well, just to show you the kind of difference that we get. So I'm going to say clear memory. Hello.
It's good to connect with you. I'm here to listen and offer support as a psychological resource. What's on your mind today? Let's explore what you'd like to discuss, whether it's a specific concern or simply a need to talk.
So, I mean, they're both essentially doing the exact same thing, welcoming to the session. Let's return the exact same statement as before.
I'm truly sorry to hear you've been feeling worried. It takes courage to acknowledge those feelings, and I'm here to listen without judgment. Would you like to tell me more about what's been causing you concern, or perhaps just talk about how you're feeling? Let's take things at your pace.
All right, so you can see here how even when I update the model to the Gemma 3.4b, it's actually doing what I asked it to do, which is take the entities, which is user, the assistant, taking the facts, taking the relationships, and taking the data as well, which is none, causal relationships, none. Couldn't find any emotions yet, which is interesting. And then, that's for the first update, obviously, because I just said hello. Now for the second date, I should probably separate this out a bit, but this second update saying that the emotions is the user is feeling worried and the assistant is feeling sympathetic, which is good. That's what we want to emulate. And I mean, there's not too much difference between the 3B and 4B for that response there. That is showing some validation and listening. And they've asked how many questions would you like me to do for? Or perhaps just talk about how you're feeling, which is good. That's one question. All right, so let's respond to this one. Would you like to tell me more about what's causing you concern? Yep. I actually have some exams coming up.
I'm sorry to hear you're feeling worried about your upcoming exams. It's completely understandable to feel anxious when facing academic pressure. Would you like to talk about what's specifically making you feel this way? Or perhaps we could just explore some strategies for managing your anxiety. Let's take things at a comfortable pace.
Yeah, that's good. So they're validating my emotion. I'm sorry to hear you're feeling worried, showing active listening by saying I'm feeling worried about your upcoming exam. It hasn't said I'm sorry you're feeling worried about your dog or anything like that. That's irrelevant to the conversation, which is good. It's understandable to feel anxious, academic pressure. That's great. That's empathetic listening as well. And they asked, would you like to talk about what's specifically making you feel this way? Or perhaps we could just explore some strategies for managing your anxiety. So this often is when I've found that it tends to struggle, because I'll ask for strategies and sometimes it'll spit out a very long answer, and sometimes it'll say something a bit more concise. So let's see what happens. Yes, do you have any strategies?
It sounds incredibly stressful facing those exams. Let's explore what might help. Could you tell me a little more about what specifically is making you feel worried? Perhaps we can break it down. Is it the content, the pressure, or something else entirely?
Excellent. So this is what we want to see, in that it's asking for more information to give what we might call evidence-based strategies that are specific for what the problem is. So let's go with the amount of content as being the stressful thing. There is just so much content that they want us to learn. There's probably 10 lectures worth.
It sounds like you're feeling overwhelmed by the volume of material. That's completely understandable. Feeling overloaded can be really stressful. Let's explore what's contributing to this feeling and perhaps break it down into more manageable steps. Would you like to talk about what specifically feels so daunting about the content?
So even though I've set the response in the system prompt to be answering 100 words or less, that still feels like quite a lot to listen to. I believe on average when people have a conversation, it tends to sit between 40 to 60 words per exchange, per iteration of the conversation, which, so 100, it depends. Once again, if the psychologist is doing some psychoeducation, they might obviously start really talking for a long time, giving the strategies, but obviously to be able to get to that psychoeducation, the psychologist needs to be able to sit back and listen, get as much information as possible, which it's doing quite well. Would you like to talk about what specifically feels so daunting about the content? Oh, another thing to mention is also the amount of time between sending and receiving. So I'm running this on a M1 Mac Max, which has, how much have I got? 32 gig of RAM, and I am using the 4B again. So that's as quick as what you're really going to get it. If we can up it in a moment, we'll see how that slows it down. And so, yeah, it's getting that balance correct between the speed, because, you know, if someone's really distressed, they don't want to be sitting there for what feels like a long time waiting for a response. If you ask someone a question and the psychologist in real life sits there for 5 seconds, you're going to feel under pressure a lot of the time. You know, they say silence is good as well. But not when you've said enter and said, I want a response right now. That's essentially what this is saying. It's saying, send, give me the information back. So what feels so daunting? There's just so much content. We have to review 10 weeks worth.
I understand. It sounds incredibly overwhelming to be facing 10 weeks of material. Feeling that pressure can certainly fuel worry. Let's take things slowly. Would you like to talk about what specifically is making it feel so daunting? Or perhaps we could explore some strategies for breaking it down.
All right, so we've gotten to the point where it's starting to repeat itself. It's not actually being helpful anymore. It's asked here, would you like me to talk about what feels so daunting? And here it's asking again, would you like to talk about specifically it's making me feel daunting? Well, I just said that, and I've repeated the information twice, 10 lectures worth. Here it said again, need to review 10 weeks worth. So it's memory context as well. It knows it's 10 weeks worth. Yes, I've said I want strategies, and it's not actually delivering me strategies. So this might be reaching the limit of what 4B can offer. Obviously, the more higher we go of the models, the more it's going to be able to offer. So let's clear the memory and reset everything. Actually, let's do that. Let's chuck it back to Serena here. And then I'm going to take the memory information again, chuck that in. Now, I think the memory information is working pretty well. We don't want that to be a time lag, so I'm going to set that to 4B. But I'll set Gemma 312B, and we had you are a psychologist, full stop. Answer in 80 words or less. Responses only. And we'll start with that again. Gotta love text to speech. And we'll try this with a slightly different scenario as well. Hello? Processing.
It's good to hear from you. What's on your mind today?
See, that's a long time to wait for someone to respond. I've been feeling just sick lately.
That sounds distressing. Feeling sick can encompass physical or emotional distress, or both. It's important to explore what's contributing to this. Can you tell me more about what you mean by sick?
That's great. It's doing clarifying questions. I just find it hard to get out of bed to do anything. I just don't feel like doing anything. Now, I am specifically speaking quite unclearly because obviously that's important. If you're talking to a person or a psychologist, they need to be able to understand even if someone rambles and doesn't use pauses and doesn't use breaks. And I mean, this is reliant on Apple's speech to text, which generally does a really good job.
That lack of motivation can be really tough. It's common to experience periods like this. It could stem from fatigue, sadness, or even overwhelm. Let's explore what not feeling like doing anything means for you. What activities are affected, and when did this start?
Cool, that's great. It's done the validation. It's common to experience periods like that. That can be helpful, can also not be helpful, can be slightly invalidating, but that's going to differ between psychologists, so that's fine. Could stem from fatigue, sadness, or even overwhelm. Suggestions, I probably would ask a question there instead. I'll explore what not feeling. That's a great question. What activities are affected? My job, I work as a shop assistant at a supermarket.
Okay, that provides valuable context. Retail work can be demanding. Let's explore how your job might be contributing to what you're experiencing.
Cool, that's great. I just don't enjoy it. Like, it's some of the people there are fun, but it's boring. At the end of the day, you're doing the same thing every day, and I don't know.
Sounds like you're experiencing burnout. Repetitive tasks, even with enjoyable colleagues, can lead to that. It's common, especially in roles like yours. Let's explore how this lack of enjoyment impacts you, and if there are ways to re-engage, or consider alternative options.
All right, so it's jumped to almost a diagnosis of burnout, which can be quite a loaded term for some people. So I probably wouldn't, most psychologists probably wouldn't jump to there from that minimal amount of information. It could have just been a bad day as opposed to chronic stress or cynicism or anything like that. And, saying it's common, it's probably not heaps helpful. Let's consider if this lack of enjoyment impacts you and if there are ways to re-engage or consider alternative options. I do have a specific scenario in my head, which I'm hoping it can actually work out, but from what it's asked so far, it's not going to be able to get there. But let's keep going for a little bit. There's no other options. I've only ever worked as a shop assistant.
It's understandable to feel stuck when you feel your only option is the current role. Feeling limited can intensify burnout. Let's explore transferable skills from your experience, customer service, teamwork, problem solving, and brainstorm how those could fit other roles, even if they seem distant now.
Yeah, I'd say it's getting pretty far off track. So the scenario I had in mind was actually a manager who had microaggression against me, but now it's just talking about transferable skills. He didn't ask any more questions about retail, the context, who I work with, because I said I don't like it's like some of the people there are fun, so that would be an indication that maybe not all of the people are fun. So it's starting to get quite off track now, and I would feel like it's not listening to me. Well, not listening to me. It's not getting to the core issues that I'd be seeking that most psychologists would be able to clearly get into. But the memory is doing it relatively correctly. User feels stuck. Possible causes, having difficulty. Yep, it's got occupation. It's not doing it exactly like what I asked, but it's relatively close. And I might up that as well, just to help that be a bit better with the memory. All right, so let's up this to 27B. I'm going to clear the memory and we'll go from there. So just ignore that above that. So we'll start from hello again. Hello. is a long time to wait. That is too long of a time to wait.
Hello, how can I help you today? I'm here to listen and offer support. Remember, seeking help is a sign of strength, and I'm glad you reached out. Let's explore what's on your mind.
Awesome. All right, we got there eventually. We'll try for a little bit, see how we go. New scenario. Hi, yeah, my mate reckoned I should come and chat to you and get some help. Loading. It's doing a better job with the memory context though, so that's a good sign.
It's great your friend encouraged you to reach out. Many find support helpful, and acknowledging you might benefit is a sign of strength, not weakness. I'm here to listen without judgment. What's on your mind? We can explore things at your pace.
Cool. That took way too long. If you were sitting in a psychologist's office and they sat there waiting for you, you'd feel probably quite frustrated at that. So let's jump to where was it? See, Llama 2 Uncensored 7B is theoretically a good choice in that it would allow the person to talk about many unmentionable topics, which could theoretically be the future advantage of a AI psychologist, in that there might be things you want to say to an AI psychologist that you don't want to say to any other single person on Earth. So let's give that a go, because that was just far too slow. But let's also see if having 12B, I don't think that's what's slowing it down too much. I think it was the psychologist model. But we'll see how we go. Hello.
Hello.
Cool. That was good. But I think I'm not sure why that was such a short response, but let's keep going. My mate suggested I come and have a chat with you. My mate suggested that I come and have a chat with you.
Sure. What would you like to talk about?
Okay, so that's not doing a great job at all. It's possible that's not a system prompt. I'll have to have a look in that further, because it's not taking the system prompt very well. So let's do one final test, which would be to just show you why I wouldn't use a reasoning model. So let's check on 5-4 mini reasoning, clear the memory, and start from there. Hello. And then once again, we wait for a long time while it has a good think.
Okay,
there we go.
The user just said hello and that's it. I need to respond as a psychologist. What could they possibly need help with? Since the query is very brief, maybe they're just testing how I interact, or perhaps forgot to include their actual question. I should keep it friendly and open-ended to encourage them to provide more details. Let me make sure my response invites them to ask anything they're comfortable sharing. Also, remind them it's okay to share as much as they're ready, with privacy in mind. Keep it professional but approachable. All right, time to put that into a concise reply. Think. Hello. Of course, feel free to share whatever you'd like within privacy guidelines. I'm here to listen and help with any questions or concerns you have. What's on your mind?
So yes, it's doing a good job getting there eventually. Obviously, a client is not going to want to hear everything that the psychologist is thinking. That would probably be extremely unhelpful. But let's do one more just to show what's happening there and why Well, actually, we could code it on the back end to only deliver what comes after think and only deliver that back, which would be good and fine, but that's still going to take a long time to get there because it still needs to actually process through all of the thinking. But let's just do one more. I'm struggling with anxiety at the moment. And then that is going to process for a little while, likely. It's interesting, I have said to limit yourself to 80 words, which it's doing here. But it obviously knows not to include that.
Think, okay, so the user is saying they're struggling with anxiety. Let me start by acknowledging that first. It's important to validate their feelings. Then, I should probably ask them to elaborate a bit more so I can understand better. Maybe they need specific advice or just someone to listen. Wait, but since this is a text-based AI, I can't offer professional help. Need to make sure they know to reach out to a therapist or counselor if needed. But also, maybe provide some general coping strategies they can try while emphasizing that these aren't substitutes for professional advice. What are common anxiety tips? Deep breathing exercises, mindfulness, grounding techniques. Maybe suggest creating a safe space at home. Also, self-care activities like exercise or journaling. Remind them about the importance of sleep and nutrition. But keep it brief since the response needs to be under 80 words. Need to balance empathy with practical, but limited, suggestions. Wait, also mention privacy. Maybe remind them not to share personal info here. Check if there's any trigger in their message that I should address. No, seems straightforward. Alright, structure, empathize, validate, offer general strategies, encourage reaching out to professionals, and remind about privacy. Think, I'm sorry to hear you're feeling anxious. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, and I'm here to listen if you'd like to share more. Remember, while I can suggest minor self-help techniques, for example, deep breathing, grounding tips, professional support is crucial for managing anxiety. You're not alone, and therapy/counseling offers safe guidance. Also, please avoid sharing overly personal details online. Prioritize your well-being. Your safety matters most.
Yeah, so once again, that is why we wouldn't use a reasoning model because it takes far too long. Like it's interesting, it says don't share personal details here. This is running just completely locally on my machine. And that sort of leads into the final thing to say, which is that I would highly, highly, highly recommend you don't test any of the online models that are out there for this kind of work, or use it actively for anything which has sensitive or private information. If you are struggling with any thoughts or emotions that you feel are beyond anything you're able to handle on your own, seek help from a qualified mental health professional. All right, so that's sort of the first iteration I've got there. So far, the Gemma 312B does a reasonable job on the front end and on the back end as well. So we'll start with that. And then next time we'll actually try improving on the system prompts, I reckon, and see what we can do there as far as doing the things that we would want a psychologist to do to improve the well-being and therapeutic outcomes of the client. Thank you for watching. Stay subscribed, and YouTube will let you know when the next video is out. Thank you.